Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. It is great to have you here. If you're leaving comments on Getter, I cannot read them because I didn't have a lot of time to prepare James's wedding video slideshow. So I got it only when I asked, and about less than 90 minutes before the show started, while I was putting my makeup on and also had to have dinner and prepare for our guest. So if you leaving comments on Getter, sorry, but they will not go be read today, and you can thank James for that because he shockingly waited to the last minute.
Oh, so, yes.
Yeah. And so my husband is really thrilled with you because he was the one who had to dive in, and we had a shortcut dinner for him to be able to download all the pictures and upload them and get them ready to go. So
I don't know if you'll be shocked here, but I hadn't thought of even showing my wedding pictures, so I saw that text. And I was like, that's a great idea.
And you may be shocked because we had that conversation, but sure.
I believe that.
Yeah, I believe that too. All right, so coming up later in the show, we will do James's wedding pictures as much as I've chosen to download and got downloaded. And before, I just absolutely just want to jump through the screen and strangle James here. And I thought your new wife was going to fix all that LPS with you. I thought that she was going to be the responsible one, and it wound up having to be me and my husband instead. So, all right. Yep, here he comes. Are you going to yell at James?
Hi.
Oh, okay. No, I told him that you were going to yell at him because you had to pick up the slack for him.
I was ready for it.
James,
yes,
God,
sir.
You're married now. Stop it.
Did you hear him?
I did. That's good advice. I'm married now. I should be better. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Stop.
Be better.
Just stop it.
Stop it.
Okay. Oh, I don't know what he's playing with the screen now. Don't worry. It's okay. You didn't have to do that Well, he fixed it so that I could read the comments from people on Getter. So if you're in Getter and want to leave comments, I can now read your comments online. Okay. So let's get to our guest who is here, who's so kind to have been here on time. John Tillman is joining us. Hello, John.
Hey, how you doing, Mary? Great to be with you.
Great. I'm so glad you joined us. This is my work husband, James, who's he's newly married and hasn't learned how to be responsible yet, but he's working on it.
The simplest advice I have for you, James, after 30 years is just yes, dear, to everything, and it'll be fine.
Nice.
And that includes me. Yeah. That includes me. When I ask you for wedding pictures, you don't wait till like an hour before the show.
That's right. Yes, dear works for the work wife, too.
Yes,
No. It only works if you follow it up with action.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
my bad. I, of course, was wrong.
Yeah. So who is John? All right. John is a leader in free market public policy. He's got a great website, American Culture Project. You can find it at amculture.org. Check it out. I spent some time on it today. And it attracts, educates, and mobilizes independent voters around the ideas of freedom and opportunity. So this is why I was interested in having you come on. James is, I think, honestly, he's kind of like a borderline socialist. Like he would be if he thought he could get away with it. I am not affiliated with a party. So you've got a lot of independent voters. And I think we get a lot of people as well online, and I'll bring up their comments as they come in. And just, Pete is here, Bill's here, and Porch View Farm is here. So we do have a more conservative leaning audience, but we do get a lot of independent people here. And you write you've had pieces in the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, Real Clear Politics. So you are a heavy hitter when it comes to this arena, and you have some great advice. But I don't know if, like me, I'm so frustrated because it doesn't seem like Republicans listen to the advice. Like you can tell them anything, but if they're not going to listen to you, isn't it frustrating?
It is a little frustrating. In fact, it's funny you bring that up. The whole reason I got involved in public policy and politics back in 2004 after selling a business, and most of my life was my life up until my 40s, I was in business and an entrepreneur. And I got involved because I was so frustrated with the Republicans who have the greatest product ever created in the human sphere to improve the human condition, especially for the poor and disadvantaged, which is the free enterprise system, capitalism, entrepreneurship, and the founding principles of this country. It is the greatest way to improve the human condition, lifts more people out of poverty, creates income equality better than any other system. It is amazing. And yet our side sells it like it's cancer. The other side is selling dependency and decline, and they sell it like it's candy, and people are buying it. That's why I got involved. And that is still our great challenge today.
Okay, so how do you get Republicans to, I don't know, act like they have a pulse, act like they're excited about something? They just don't seem to be interested. I think they're so used to losing, they just don't know how to win, nor do they know how to govern once they do win.
Politics is all about reward systems, and reward systems are about pressure. And my theory of politics is that political decision makers, elected officials, and people on staff, the administrative state, they operate within a political vice, meaning a three-sided vice. So imagine a three-sided, I can't quite do it on the screen, but a three-sided vice, kind of like the trash compactor in the first Star Wars movie. And they're getting pressure from, and that's a good place, by the way, for the political class to be, is in a trash compactor. But the three sides of the vice are media pressure, public opinion pressure when it gets animated, often orchestrated by nonprofits and others, and then elite influencers. The challenge for us, and why Republicans struggle and the other side seems to always have it together, is because the left has built tremendous capacity to apply pressure to the political system and political actors through media, through agitation by the public, and they've built tremendous influencer machines. Our side doesn't even realize this vice exists, and we underinvest in building those capacities. And that's the work I've been involved with, is to start building those capacities over a period of time.
James?
I like that, and I do think it would be nice as what I like to call myself, a bleeding heart libertarian, if there was a little more of that smart thinking Republican attitude going on. You know, the more of the fiscally conservative kind of guys who don't really get to concern themselves with morality issues, let's say.
Well, whether you want to be a full spectrum conservative involved in social issues or not, the real issue is why does it seem like when conservatives get elected, they immediately begin to move to the left and soften their point of view, and why when liberals get elected, they seem to move further left and they harden their point of view. The speakership is just a perfect illustration of that. The Democrats showed complete unanimity throughout the time. They had a very narrow majority in the first 2 years of the Biden administration. The Republicans last barely 6 months because they can't be disciplined. Why is that? And part of the reason is the incentive structures on the Republican side are different, and they respond to different feedback systems. Too many of the people, and believe me, I am a hardcore conservative, but I'm also, I will say, a pragmatic conservative. And I think that part of it is that Republicans believe the cacophony of pressure that comes into their offices at the Capitol, comes into their offices at the district, the organized and orchestrated protest and pressure that the left puts on elected officials on the right. The Republicans think that represents public opinion, and when it doesn't, it's representing a very small activist extremist opinion orchestrated by the left, and they don't seem to have the willpower yet or understand that this is a game and they're being played.
So I just want to put this up here. Porch View Farm says, my dad was a mover in Republican politics all my life. Republican people like dinners and speeches.
Well, that is really true. Republicans do like dinner and speeches, no matter how bad the food might be, because for many people on the Republican side, particularly the grassroots level, and this is not all of them, and this is not necessarily criticism, but it is part of the social life. On the Democrat side, they don't care so much about the dinners and speeches. They are much more interested in going out and doing the work. And the reason is that the incentive structures are different. The left wants government as an instrument of power to work its way because they don't believe in a decentralized, individually sovereign society where people make decisions in a decentralized way and come to voluntary action to solve problems together. The left believes in the government as an instrument of power. Republicans, generally speaking, start out believing that we should decentralize power and disaggregate power. But the problem is once you get into office, the currency of being a Republican is using power. One of my favorite stories is the late, great Senator Tom Coburn in 2006, when I asked him, why is it that Republicans always seem to move left, Democrats move left, nobody ever moves to the right once they're in office? And he told me a great story. He first got elected to the House. He gets down to Washington, and some of the movers and shakers, the elite influencers from his district came to see him. And they said, oh, Dr. Tom, you're doing such a good job holding the line on earmarks, holding the line on spending. We're really proud of you back in Oklahoma. Now, I've got this one thing I need to talk to you about. And that one thing always involves government action. So the currency on both sides is government action. It's the rare Republican who forgoes that and really focuses on aggregating power back to the people rather than using government power.
Yeah, and I interviewed former Congressman Doug Collins today, and we had the conversation about exactly what you just hit on, that Democrats, and I've always said this, Democrats will always circle the wagons. Look at Jamal Bowman pulled the fire alarm, right? Which is a federal crime. Nothing's going to happen to him because Democrats circle the wagons and they know that Republicans will eventually lose interest and walk away, which is what they do. Even though the Republicans' constituents are like, hey, you need to hold him to the same standards I would be held to. And, war starts in Israel and Republicans can't do two things at once. So that's the end of that. So Jamal Bowman walks as we would expect he would. If Jamal Bowman were a Republican, though, and Nancy Pelosi were Speaker, he would have a trial date set. They would be looking to oust him, to impeach him, and take him out of the seat because they can do more than one thing at a time. But we talked about how Democrats circle the wagons, Republicans shoot within the tent. And it's to your point of what you said, Republicans are individuals. Democrats know when to get into lockstep. And they don't care and they don't worry about their constituents not putting them back. Democrats understand the value of name recognition. Republicans do not. Democrats understand that they can do things that their constituents don't like, but they will still get reelected. Republicans are too afraid of that. And Republicans are more individual thinkers. So even though they have a slim majority in the House, they're probably not going to get anything done, because there will always be, about 8 or so Republicans that won't get in line. And so nothing's going to get done. So it's a blessing and a curse. I'm glad that they represent their constituents at home, which is what they're supposed to do. They're representatives. But at the same time, you're not going to get anything done. It's like herding cats. You're just never going to make everybody happy. It's impossible. So it's almost like Republicans are just going to always lose.
Well, the good news is that I'm going to disagree with you there. There is a solution to this, and we've seen evidence of it during Trump's tenure. This is not about Trump. This is about the Congress. And during Trump's tenure, they actually did get a fair amount done and pretty successfully. And part of the reason was that Trump did wield a bully pulpit that made Republicans fearful of a primary challenge if they didn't go along with the tax hike and some of his other larger initiatives. A really good example, and that really goes to the point that you're alluding to, which is the reason Democrats operate much more in lockstep is, besides they have greater alignment because they want to use government and government power, the other reason is they have much better discipline mechanisms in primaries and in general. The money is concentrated and controlled much more by a small cadre of people, including Pelosi and others. And so if you go against Pelosi and the Democrat talking points in the Democrat agenda, you will pay a consequence. Whereas on the Republican side, Republicans can fund themselves generally independent, and most Republicans are squeamish about using the primary system as a way to take out Republicans that are going against that. But we are seeing evidence that this is being learned. Governor Kim Reynolds in Iowa is the best recent example, where she went after a bunch of recalcitrant Republicans who opposed school choice. She played in primaries, which is very unusual for a Republican governor. She took out Republicans who were opposed to her. Republicans went in that were supporting, and they passed one of the greatest school choice universal bills in the country. That's a lesson that should be taken nationwide and to the federal election scene.
Yeah. James?
No, that makes a lot of sense. You're right. It doesn't seem that Republicans have mastered the art yet of finding that famous voice or having some kind of like social influencer in a modern world, right? There's not I can't think of a conservative social influencer.
Well, these days, the closest we have is Joe Rogan, and he's not a Republican.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill Maher, even almost. Bill Maher's not a Republican either, right? But he's kind of, there's more people, I think there are people coming out now who are willing to just say, look, this is, I think they criticize both sides, where maybe we're starting to see maybe a little bit of a move towards the middle. And it's almost like the comedians that are making that move towards the middle, saying this is wrong, left or right. And they're not afraid to call them out. Pete makes a smart comment here. Pete says, it seems to me that James is a libertarian/socialist. He wants government out of his business, but he wants government help for those on the lower end of the economic scale.
I'm going to give you a half right there, Pete. I think there was a point in my life where the hippie in me wanted to be a socialist, but the inner logical person in me realized that that's impossible, and you need more private enterprise to make that work and more government out of your life. So, I mean, I'm not a big low-end social program person necessarily.
Okay, I didn't know. Now, Text USA says the Dems have the army of street militants, looters, and violent protester mobs. It's called guerrilla warfare. Costs them nothing. Break it, the Dems will rebuild it. What do you say to that, John? I mean, the Democrats really do have that Antifa mob. Like Hitler had brown shirts, the Democrats have black shirts, who will create chaos and violence and sow disruption in order to further an agenda. Like BLM does the same thing.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of wannabes, and unfortunately no longer a wannabe pretender, people who want to be in the protest movement. I'm of the age when I went to college after the protests were largely over, and there were so many people among my social circle who were just dying for a good protest, and we didn't have one. The draft had been ended, we were out of Vietnam, and our biggest problem was whether or not they ran out of half barrels at the party store. That was something that people would protest.
Yeah.
Today's young people, that there's such virtue in going to the streets and protesting. One of my favorite things people do is when they interview people about why they're protesting, half the time they can't articulate a good reason as to why they're protesting. They love the act of it. It's the theater of it. But there are some who have legitimate grievances. And I think that the protesting of American people has always been part of our culture. But when it's gone violent as it has and attacking people and property, I think that's when we really have to rethink what's happening in our culture. But the Democrats have found that these protests work to their advantage. They want the chaos. Molly Hemingway had a very good column today about the chaos the Democrats are causing. And I'm going to pause my camera and mute for just 1 second because I need to cough. And your viewers don't need to see that. So it'll be
okay, don't worry.
very quick.
That's fine. Along those lines, Hermit Sal said, "Is it me or is the volume not working?" I have no problem hearing everyone, Sal. So I don't know what's me. I think it's you. Everybody can hear everybody, right? So
I'm hearing everybody great. I'll try to talk louder, Sal. Wherever you
we appreciate that. That's okay. I just got over the flu. I was not at James's wedding on Sunday. Hubby and I both had the flu, and I'm still hacking and coughing, and it's not pretty at all. So I have my mute button on every now and then as well. Greg says some of the Republicans that voted to impeach Trump were primaried. Sure, look at Liz Cheney, right?
Yeah,
she got it handed to her.
But that shows you how rare it is. It took an impeachment of Trump to have some Republicans primaried. We're not talking about that. We're talking about routine, but sort of central policy ideas to a party's agenda. Back when they passed Obamacare during the Obama administration, I think they passed that in 2010 or 2009, 63 Democrats lost their seats in the general election. But they had to do it and take that vote, though they knew they were at risk because they were going to be disciplined by their own party if they didn't. There's not that kind of discipline on the Republican side.
Yeah, no, they're too concerned with losing their seat.
There's people working to build that capacity to hold Republicans accountable. And I think that'll be a key part of the future of electoral politics on the Republican side.
Yeah. Porch View Farm says, my lefty brother-in-law thinks he's been called to the movement.
Yes, that's probably because he's an atheist and he needs to be called to something, and he's substituting the movement for God and faith.
Okay, this is where James, I think, is going to jump in, because I agree with you. And I see, as this country moves further away from some kind of religious belief, I don't care who you worship. I don't care if you worship toasters, but a power that's higher than yourself. You put the government in that void. I think as humans, we have a need to see that there's some kind of higher power. Look at back over the millennia. They worshiped the sun because they thought the sun was a god, or they worshiped the volcano, or whatever it happened to be. They worshiped something, Mother Nature, the earth, because it was more powerful than they were. And so I think humans have that need. When you take that away, and nothing's more powerful than humans, nothing, everything can be explained away. We just have a need to have something. So what fits that bill? The government's bigger than all of us, right? So instead of good things coming from God, enabling you to have it, or the earth giving you food, Mother Earth provides it with you, the government does, right? So the government provides my food, and the government provides my Wi-Fi, and the government provides whatever it is I happen to need, fill in the blank. James?
I think it's more about some sense of lack of morality and a little bit of stay out of my business. I do agree with you, though, that there becomes a team mentality no matter what you're a part of, right? If you're a part of religion, that's your group or your team. If you're an atheist, you make the government, or that need to change, being part of environmentalist, your team, or whatever. But in all those groups, there's highly immoral people, right? So to me, it's more of like a communal morality issue that we're all lacking, right? We could all have that. We could all have those basic sense of respect. I don't have any appreciation for the like militant atheist that runs around and goes, "You're all wrong and you have to stop and God should be dead in the world and nobody's allowed to say Jesus." Those people are terrible humans. So,
Well, immorality is endemic to the human condition. It's a natural part of what we struggle with as human beings every single day. The difference is when your immorality harms you versus when your immorality is harming others and causing pain in others. And that's what I think is the difference. When your immorality means that you're going to go firebomb people's buildings in a protest about somebody who was wrong, that tells you that you've lost sight of any kind of moral compass, whether your moral compass is the government, or I would say, Mary, one of the new moral compasses is the government is actually an instrument to protect the great Gaia. I mean, climate change has really become religion for many people. And the beauty of that and the genius of that is that the earth almost has a personality to us, particularly if you're an outdoors person, as I am. I just came back from some hiking up in New Hampshire and enjoying the fall colors changing. It was just spectacular. But if you don't have faith, and again, I'm all for whatever people have, the atheist, agnostic, a believer, not a believer, that's up to each individual. But people are always searching, as you pointed out, and they're going to find it somewhere. It's hard to live a life of emptiness.
It's poor Sal. Sal says, "My first time here. I have no audio." Well, maybe next time then. Clearly, I would say it's on your computer. Sorry, Sal. Now, Taxi was. I want to learn American Sign Language, but in my free time, too busy working with James's pictures. Now, Tax USA says, "Not to disagree, but what is legitimate about burning down cities and jumping on police cars? Can John clarify?"
Well, I certainly didn't suggest that was legitimate. In fact, I said exactly the opposite. It is never legitimate to burn down cities, jump on police cars, and wreak violence on people and property. That is abhorrent in every respect. And the fact that so many people in the body politic, particularly on the left, sanctioned that and said it was just protest. One of the things I thought was most striking about how horrible that was is when the people would say, it's just things and they have insurance and they can replace those things. Well, I've owned a number of small businesses, and I can tell you when my businesses were broken into and my big windows on the front of my building were shattered and I showed up at 2 and 3 in the morning, it wasn't about the insurance claim. It wasn't about the window. It was about the 100 hours I worked that week to try to build that business with all of my life savings invested in it. They were not attacking things. They were attacking my life's dream. And that's what that destruction in 2020 was all about and what it remains about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott has a funny comment. He says, "Black Lives Matter members seem to do a very thorough job. If only they could all be contacted from, say, a Facebook page and then paid to use their efforts for someone's desired protest or campaign." But there's a lot of truth to what Scott says there. He's saying it as a joke, but the reason I put it up on the screen is because there's a lot of truth to that. How many of these people are just paid agitators, right? Somebody pays them. They fly in from all over. When these people do get arrested and they put up where they're from, they're usually never from the city that they were protesting in or destroying stuff in. They're from elsewhere. Somebody's paying to fly them in. Somebody's putting them up in a hotel, right? Somebody's providing them with food. So somebody's transporting them to where they need to be. How come we can't find out who somebody is?
Well, I think the money laundering schemes are pretty good, and it's very hard to track all the money that flows through various nonprofits and for-profit companies to fund it. I don't remember who's done it. Actually, a number of people have done a sort of a comparison of here's this protester in Portland, here's this protester in Chicago, here's this same protester, slightly different hats. Some people have done some pretty amusing compilations of that. And I think that really reveals the fact that the left is training their special forces of agitating protesters to go in and be the leaders when the local useful idiots, as one once said in a book long ago, or a quote from long ago about the communist and America's useful idiots. The left has a lot of useful idiots though that show up, and lemmings that will follow these paid protesters who are professional at that. But I think, George Soros and all the other nonprofits, the government unions, private sector unions, they're all putting tons of money into these protests, and it's very organized and structured. They have tremendous resources. It's really fascinating to me how much money the left is able to generate for all their nonprofit and political work as compared to the right. It used to be the other way around. It is completely flipped.
Let's see. Porch View Farm says a lot are paid. My brother-in-law trains this stuff. He raises the money and holds actions. He's professional.
Maybe you should take your brother-in-law out on a long boat trip.
I was going to say your sister marries well. I could imagine. Can you imagine Thanksgiving in that house?
I've never understood mixed marriages. I don't know how people do it.
Well, who knows? Maybe the sister leans the same way. But can you imagine having him over for Thanksgiving when he talks? All he does is talk about the slaughter of the Indians and Columbus Day is Indigenous Peoples Day, and there's something wrong with Christmas. And having him over, they're just miserable people. They're deeply, deeply unhappy, and they have a problem with everything. I could not be around those types of people at all.
One of my favorite things, Mary, is when I encounter somebody that's on the other side ideologically, I like to try to engage in a civil conversation. And I just have kind of a private timer going off on how long it takes before they become angry. And the angrier they get, the happier I become. I don't mean sarcastically. I mean, I try to be joyful and having a happy warrior attitude and having an honest civil debate. And it's amazing how difficult it is for the other side to defend its point of view. There are people out there defending Hamas right now, and it blows me away.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I find that if you really want to tick them off on Twitter, all you have to do is just ask a simple question. They'll say something, and I'm like, "Oh, I want to learn more. Can you provide a link so I can learn more about that?"
Right.
Well, you should do your, and they eventually get around to, well, do your own research. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, well, no, you're the one who told me. I would assume you'd have something. I can't find anything on it. And they get really mad. And then they get condescending. Oh, you're an idiot. You're a moron because you can't find it. And then they start name calling. Then they swear. And then they block you.
The link for all those people is actually the same, which is imadeitup.com.
No, it's my feelings.
Oh, that's true too. That's the other side.
I feel this way.
I'm sure that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if they have to come with the do your own research, they've probably never done research in their life.
No, they don't know how.
Yeah.
Let's see. Starlight says one large brown paper bag and one underground car park? ? I guess for the brother-in-law.
She's suggesting how to take care of the brother-in-law there.
Yes, Porch View Farm says it's husband's side, his brother. Let's see. Now Tax USA says, so what is John's libertarian view on taxes?
Oh, this is one of my favorite questions. I have two thoughts on this. The first one, which is taxing labor is a form of slavery, and we should not tax labor at all. When you think about how abhorrent the idea of slavery is, one of my favorite questions for people who want to raise taxes is, well, let me ask you this. Is a little slavery okay? I mean, if we let everybody off, say, at 2:00 in the afternoon, the rest of the day was theirs, would that be okay? Oh, no? Okay. How about, let's say, noon? If we let everybody off at noon, they had to work for us, slaves till noon, but then after that, they're on their own. Would that be okay? That's kind of what taxing labor is. Labor is the most fundamental asset a human being has to provide for themselves and their family and provide security for themselves. We should never tax it. And we've shown through states, the 10 or 12 states now that don't have any income taxes, that you can, if government stays within its proper boundaries, you can fund government without taxing labor. Consumption taxes, fee-based taxes, excise taxes, where people are transacting and making choices about that is the way to do it. Tariffs, it's to some degree, even though I'm a free trader. That's my general feeling on it. Now, having said that, if you are going to tax labor, here's what I think we do backwards. Right now, the way it works is we tax people at a low rate when they enter the workforce and have low wages. But as you go through your career and you start earning more money, you get into your 30s and 40s, and you're in the family formation stage, buying houses, raising kids, eventually paying for college, unless you get a free loan from the government and Joe Biden. Your tax rates, as your income goes up, they go up too. So every marginal dollar you earn, actually you get less of it. It's the exact opposite of what we should do. When people start out, so long as they're saving a prescribed amount, let's say 15%, they should not be taxed at all, as long as they're saving 15%. And then once they get to a certain amount of savings when they're in their 30s or 40s, then you tax them at higher marginal rates. But by that time, they've saved $500,000 or $1 million, and they now have a nest egg that will have compounding over the rest of their career. That is how we should tax people.
I like it.
Not
Although
a
it's too
flat
late in the
tax, but
game.
it's not
It's too late in the game for me, so screw it.
That's the attitude
No.
that's going to make this country great.
Do it after I'm dead, damn it. Oh, Jim is very sweet. Jim says, I'm lovely and whatever. But he said, first heard her on Dan Bongino's show. Glad I found her. Thank you so much, Jim. So along those lines, programming note, tomorrow I am back in for Andrew Wilkow on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125. And pretty much every Monday, unless like war breaks out in Israel, which happened this week, so I wasn't on, I'm on the Chris Salcedo show on Newsmax TV between 4:30 and 5 o'clock Eastern time. So there you go.
And
I was supposed
shouldn't charges be filed against him? Wasn't that sexist for him to say that? He didn't mention James or me and how nice we looked and how we sounded.
Listen, I take whatever I can get.
Okay.
Greg says, Sal, clear your browser's cache, dismiss the browser entirely, and bring it back up and try again. I think Sal's gone, but we'll see. Okay. He also says, Sal, open the audio speaker icon and display the volume mixer to ensure all the devices and applications are not at level 0. Okay. You got that, Sal? I hope that helps. I feel bad when that happens to people. Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you, back in November of 22, you wrote on Fox, 4 ways Republicans can begin to turn our country around by 2024. And this was right after the midterms when everyone thought Republicans were going to win by like this huge margin. And there was going to be this red tsunami. And it really didn't happen. It was really like a blue wave. It really wasn't a red tsunami. And you list things like, will they, you ask, will they learn the lessons of the midterms? Now, we're only a year out from the midterms. Do you think Republicans are learning the lessons from the midterms?
You're going to be shocked to hear the answer is sadly no. They did not learn the lessons. One of the things I said in that piece, although I don't remember all of it because my memory is like a sieve, but the basic idea of that piece was, sure, do the investigations. Sure, we've got to get to the truth of what actually happened during the 2020 election and all the rest of that. I wasn't opposed to that. But if that was the lead element and the dominant element of what they came out with, that is not what the American people were worried about then. And some of them are worried about it now. But the other part of it is, what are you going to do to deal with rampant inflation, rising gas prices, an unsecure border, feeling that our entire country is spinning out of control with violence, the feeling that you can't go downtown into our major cities. I'm in Cleveland and I walked back from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to my hotel last night. It was perfectly fine, but I was a nervous wreck. And I try to imagine what it's like to be a single woman doing that same walk. It's terrifying. But the biggest thing they could do that I have a pending op-ed that will come out shortly, I hope, is they should be unifying around the idea of making the Trump tax hikes permanent. Rather than arguing with the Democrats and focusing on slicing up the pie on the spending side, they should do that, of course, and restrain spending. But a unifying thing for all the factions in the Republican conference is to make the Trump tax hikes permanent, which are going to sunset in 2025. No one is talking about this. No one is providing any leadership. It could mean a tax hike as much as $3,000 for the average American family, and they're dead silent on it. It's such an obvious opportunity to unify the caucus.
I think you mean the Trump tax cuts.
Did I say hikes? Oh my God. Yeah. See how I'm indoctrinated? I absolutely meant cuts. And I should have a little buzzer on that, caller if I say hikes. I meant cuts. Thanks for catching that.
Porchview Farm says she is from Cleveland as well. I've never been to Cleveland. I can honestly say I've never been.
Come to the Marriott bar and I'll buy you a drink tonight.
I heard it's dangerous.
It's actually very nice. As I said, it was quite lovely and it was fine.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, I used to go into Manhattan all the time, and I was in there for the Gracies last year. And last year. And it was like I had never seen when I was working at Fox. I'm walking through Times Square to get to Penn Station at, midnight for the 1:00 train or whatever. No problem whatsoever. Didn't fear for my safety. There's people around, people out. It was great. Didn't have to worry about somebody bashing me with a brick or anything. Now, broad daylight, I was actually scared in broad daylight walking through Manhattan. So let's go for one more from Tax USA, and then we've got to get to James's pictures here. It is time to change the tax system. Income tax system is broken and does not even begin to pay down the national debt. That's a question of the national debt. And the generations, that's one of the things you say here is we have to educate the younger generations about the debt and what is waiting for them, because they have no idea. And here they are, and they're demanding for this and that and everything else, not realizing that, all this student loan forgiveness and all this other stuff that they want is all putting them in debt, and it's going to put their kids in debt. And I keep hearing we're close to that tipping point where we're just not going to be able to pay it off anymore. What happens then?
We are definitely at a scary tipping point. The debt is now greater than the size of our economy. But this question indicates one of the great misunderstandings of the debt and our problem, because every year that you have a deficit, it adds to the ongoing accumulated debt, which is what we're talking about here. And the problem is, if you have deficits each year, you're going to keep adding to the debt. If you eventually get a surplus, where you have more revenue coming in than you're spending, then you can work down the debt. The problem is not our tax system, other than what I said earlier, but the tax system is throwing off record revenues. The federal government will take in more revenue than ever in the history of the country. The problem is not the revenue side. The problem is that spending outstrips revenue growth every single year, because the politicians are rewarded, unfortunately, by the media complex and by certain segments of the voting class for spending and debt spending. And debt is a diffused and delayed mechanism of accountability. The people that are incurring this debt and have been incurring it for the last 40 years, they will all be gone when it all comes home and we have to face the truth of it. So until the American people really decide that they're going to support politicians who take the courageous stand of starting to work the deficits down so that we get to a balanced budget and then eventually surpluses, by reining in spending, reforming entitlements. There's no way out of this until we reform entitlements. What I said about how we should tax people is an entitlement, backdoor entitlement reform that would essentially eliminate Social Security and Medicare in 40 years.
Yeah, well, don't you touch my retirement. Don't you touch my Social Security. Don't you touch my Medicare. I'm practicing.
The beauty of it is, the beauty of it is you don't have to touch anybody's Social Security. You can protect everybody currently in the system but the solutions to our problems are actually very simple. The difficulty is the political lift is very complicated and requires courage and vision, which is lacking greatly.
Yeah. Well, I'm not in the system yet. I'm trying to make it there before they get rid of it.
You're not going to be in the system for 20 years, Mary. Come on. 20 years for you. I hope the system still exists 20 years from now when you finally turn 65.
Oh, you are so good. You can tell you're a married man. Let's see. Dave says, don't go to Cleveland. The best part of Cleveland is it's 138 miles from Pittsburgh.
That's really funny. I like that. The Cleveland-Pittsburgh rivalry is real, man. It is. The struggle is real between those two cities, their sports teams, their sense of civic pride. I love it.
I've never been to either one, so there's that too. Never been to either Cleveland or Pittsburgh.
Cleveland very much.
Oh, good. Well, I'm seeing some new names like Dave and Hermit Sal and some new people who are joining us and actually participating in the podcast. So it must be you, John, tonight. Yeah. So please subscribe to the channel. Please like the podcast. We appreciate it. Tell your friends. And you can also download the audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we have some other great guests that have been on with us. James Rosen's been with us, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, Cal Thomas, Sean Spicer. So we've had some really good guests and very fun guests.
I'm glad you let me sneak in, Mary. Thank you.
No, I'm glad you're with us. Let's see. Spending is mostly entitlements and defense. Yeah, it is. But it's not an entitlement if we pay into it our whole lives. Again, hoping I'm dead by the time it all comes crashing down. It's pretty much that's my retirement plan at this point in the game, is if I could just hold out until I'm dead and then it can come crashing down. We're good.
That's a great policy platform for a politician to run on. I'm hoping you're all dead before it all comes home to roost. That should win.
I used to work with my last radio station I worked at was all millennials, right? And I used to say things like that and they would be absolutely appalled. That's a terrible thing to say. Don't you care about others? I'm like, no. Actually, no, I don't. Sorry.
No, I'm good.
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Greg says the flawed voting strategy, overturning of Roe v. Wade, and Republican disunity were a big part of the red wave that never emerged. But Yeah, the flawed voting strategy, I think, is a big part of it. We got to get, we don't like the game, but you got to get ballot harvesting. You got to follow what Scott Pressler has been doing all over the country with getting people registered to vote, with getting people to vote early, with mail-in balloting. I can never do mail-in balloting. I won't put $100 bill in the mail and mail it to myself. I'm not mailing my ballot. But the Roe v. Wade thing, the Democrats just marketed it better than the Republicans, and that's not a surprise, I think, because all it did was send it back to the states where you actually have more control than you do on a federal level. So if you want to be able to kill your baby as it's being born or after it's born, well, vote for that in your state, campaign on that in your state, run for office in your state. If you think, abortion past 12 weeks should be outlawed, then vote for that in your state. So you have much more control on a state level. So I think Republicans just didn't market it well at all.
This is such a great, these issues that he mentioned are a great example of the differences between the two parties, the conservatives and progressives, and what the inherent challenges are. On Roe v. Wade, everybody knew that was coming. There were many, many, many months for conservatives to prepare with a great unified message along the lines of what you just said. And then to also have some agreement on what is a reasonable standard to put forward that would be acceptable to 60, 70, 80% of the American public, whether you want 6 weeks, which I think, I'm not talking about my personal opinion, but whether it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever, have a unified standard. There was no way to do that. There was too fractured. There could be no agreement. The left had a completely unified messaging strategy, and they did it very, very well. So it's a good example of what we talked about earlier about the fragmentation on the right versus the unity on the left. In terms of voting strategy, I could not agree with you more, Mary. We've been one of my organizations, very involved in early voting and vote by mail in Illinois and in other states. We're very active in Virginia right now in the elections coming up. And we did a big program in the city of Chicago in the mayor's race. And we've learned a lot about how it works, what doesn't, and how to do it. When we first started doing this initially in 2020, we were ridiculed by Republicans for participating in the corrupt system. And now, of course, everybody's on board. But the Republicans were slow to get to it. The good news is, as you pointed out, there's many people now investing in early voting and vote by mail, and I think there'll be much better execution on the right in the coming cycles. That doesn't mean the left has stopped doing their nefarious activities, because I think there are things that we'll still be surprised by, but we'll have done a lot better job of leveling the playing field there.
Yeah. James, did you want to jump in here before we get to your wedding pictures?
Yeah, no, I just
You can stay if you want to stay through the wedding pictures, John. You are more than welcome. But if you want to be feet, that's fine too.
I might be feet. I have a dinner to go to.
Okay.
No, but I do think that clearly the Democratic Party's messaging is that there's no states' rights, or at least that it's a very unrecognized, or maybe to some liberal point of view, like an antiquated concept. But they really made that clear that you should have federal protection with zero explanation of what states' rights were or how that even affects our Constitution, right? There was no debate about that within the liberal camp. It was just the federal government should tell the states exactly how to deal with this.
Yeah. All right, Dave says we'll wrap up these comments and then we'll let John get going. Found you on Wilcow. Glad to listen to you all. Porch View Farm, the best part of Cleveland is the West Side Market. Also says, I spent 2 years researching election and voter fraud in Cuyahoga County. It was truly an experience. Nobody on the Republican side took me seriously. This was almost 30 years ago. And lastly, Now Text USA says, give me liberty or death or maybe abortion. And let's see, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months, 9 months, time for a reset. Very well said. Well, John Tillman, thank you so, so much. You can follow him on Twitter at John M. Tillman. All right. You can follow him on Twitter at John M. Tillman. Though his American Culture Project webpage is amculture.org. You can check that out and follow them as well and look for him because you've got writings everywhere. Is there one place where you have writings that appear regularly, opinion pieces that appear regularly that people can go to read your writings?
I am all over in different outlets, so there is no one outlet that I specialize in, but people can also go to, they search my name in Commanding Heights. They'll get a different website which aggregates all of my content in one place and all of my activities in one place.
Okay, great. So there you go. Well, it was so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Mary Walter Radio. We maybe we'll have to
Thanks.
get you back, and we'll find out in a year from now if you think the Republicans learned any lessons.
We'll do that again. And hey, married guy, congratulations. You're going to go on a great journey as long as you behave properly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye now. Take care.
Bye. Take care.
I have to get, there we go. Okay. And he's gone. Well, that was fun.
That was
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was great. All right. So let's get to the pictures, shall we?
Oh, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, we're doing it. Oh, we're doing these damn pictures. Okay. So let me see. I have to get past this. So I have to hit there. I have to click there. And then I hit that there. Hey, IT guy. Where'd my IT guy go? Hey, IT guy. Oh, nope. That opens. I just opened up solitaire on my computer by accident.
Just share that screen. That'll be good enough.
I opened up what is solitaire doing that? When did that show up? I clicked that.
No.
Oh,
Just click because we had to close.
oh,
it
we had to
before.
close it. Okay,
Click on
now
the
I click
first
there.
picture.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then I just click over here.
Right, just go share the screen.
Okay,
now.
hold on. Ready? Are you ready? Here we go. Okay, share the
Da-da-da.
screen.
Hey.
Yeah, I want to make them big. There we go.
Now come over here and just click once.
Okay,
Okay, now.
hit this.
Yep.
All right, there's James and his lovely bride.
That's
Now that-
2013.
This picture's 2013. I have to tell you though, this picture, I love this picture of you two.
Oh, thank you.
This is on their wedding day, and Tina looks absolutely beautiful. And seriously, dude, you couldn't even tuck a shirt in?
No, we were all out. All the men chose to go out.
Lord.
Hey, the women
Okay.
were part of it. So the purpose of that
now-
picture is, go ahead.
You said this is 2013?
Yep, this is when we all first met. Right when I first met them, essentially as Tina, and that's Rachel over there, and that's
Rachel. Rachel is all the way. I don't know if you can see this. Rachel's all the way to the left. That's
right,
Tina's
and then
cousin.
the 6'8" gentleman is the gentleman we used to refer to as Pool Boy, who was the other producer that used to help out on the show when I wasn't around.
Right.
Dan Browski.
Yep.
And he was
And
at the
then-
wedding, so we tried to recreate that photo.
Okay, so that should be next if things are in order here. Nope.
That's okay. That's our first.
That's
kiss.
a man carrying a bouquet.
Yep, that's her brother holding the bouquet because one of the women didn't grab it, and we needed somebody to hold it, so he took good care of it.
So can I ask you a question? Where
Yes.
you were getting married, could they have at least taken like the cocktail menu off of the TVs behind you where you were saying your vows? Because I wasn't there because I was homesick. My husband and I were both sick. So Pool Boy Dan, who's been on this show before and is now actually Dom Giordano's producer.
Yep.
If you're in
Correct
Philly. He was Zooming or FaceTiming, whatever, so I could watch. And I texted him like, could they have, turn the game off on the big screen TV that I'm looking at right now? Was that not an option?
Okay, so let me let me throw this out there. As my original podcast guys all sat on, the DJ is one of the guys from my old podcast, Fear of Critical Planet. So when the four of us reunited for a picture, I leaned over to them and I said, this affair is a very me event. I said, it leans on fun, but the details are kind of weird and fuzzy. We barely got the tablecloths on time, found the sign, a spot for that. I guess we had the option to cover them, but by then, if anybody knows my delightful wife, Ringo, sometimes she's a little emotional, and she was all but losing her mind, and it was just go time. People are just hitting songs. All of a sudden, people are walking. It was almost the verge of chaos. Beautiful chaos.
Okay. All right. Because we were watching this, and my husband's like, did anybody think about turning the game off? I'm like, no, there's a menu up there, too. I was like, why is that
That's
happening?
the beer menu there. Yeah.
Yeah. There. Oh, that's nice. That's a cute picture. There. She's just laughing the entire time. She's having the time of her life, isn't she?
We laughed a lot. She only laughed or cried, I think.
And the Resorts Casino's right behind you there.
Yep.
Okay. Look, is this the wedding party?
That's literally everybody. Yep.
Why is it so small? Why won't it become bigger? Oh, I guess it won't get bigger. That's just as big as it's going to get. Sorry, I didn't have time to size the pictures properly for the screen.
We're okay.
Okay, so that's everybody. There's the crew. And I saw these pictures and I texted Dan, I'm like, I would have been way overdressed.
Well, there were some others.
Yeah, he said he was. Oh, look at her looking in your eyes. This is such a great picture. I love this picture.
Yeah.
That's you should frame that. That's a frameable picture. That should be blown up and framed. There you go. And I loved you. I forget the song that you said. You Saved Me was the name of the song by Andy Grammer.
Yeah, Andy Grammer. Yep.
Andy Grammer. You didn't dance. The two of them just stood there. They didn't even sway back and forth. They just stood there holding each other, hugging. That was it. Like there was no movement at all.
She kept whispering, "We should move," and we'd sway for 10 seconds, and I'd be like, "Nah, we're good. I'm half crippled. We're fine. Let's just stand here."
Yeah, that was it. That was it. Let's see. Oops. Oh, hold on. I clicked in the wrong spot again. Hang on. Aw, kissing. There you are.
There's a bigger, wider.
There's Dan in the background.
Yeah.
6'7" Dan
Can't
taking a picture. That's him. You know what he's doing right there? I'm in that picture because I'm on the other end of that phone that he was sending me that. He was FaceTiming me that.
So you're that's the recreated picture.
Right, the recreated picture with Rachel and Dan and Tina and you. Okay.
Isn't that funny? We used to call you the first time they came to the station. We never told anybody they used to do that show on what they call an ISDN line, which is like just a cable line, so she could do like the studio from her house and not have to drive 2 hours to the show. And nobody, as long as it was working right, knew any different.
No.
Except that time we had the 30-second delay between our conversations, or 10-second delay, and things were really weird. But short of those times, it worked great. So the first time those two came to see Mary at the station, I'm like, all right, I got to break in a little secret. And I walked through the control room and I pointed to our ISDN and they're like, "It's Box Mary." And funny yet again, we saw a picture of Dan in the background holding some digital device as Box Mary taking that picture.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Box Mary was here again. Yeah.
Let's see. Why does it keep doing this? Okay. Oh, that's the end of the line. That's the end of the pictures.
Yeah, yep, that's them. Yeah, so
that's them. That's the end of the pictures. So, yay! They were fantastic, and thank you for sharing them. And I'm sorry we weren't there. Porch View Farm says, "Great guest, thank you." Jimmy Jones says, "Thanks for coming on, Mr. Tillman." I'm going to send these to him, so I'll let him know. Scott said he's informative.
Yep.
Beautiful dress. Congratulations on the nuptials, untucked forever. Yes, but usually you have like that specific untucked shirt, like a shirt that's made for being untucked, right?
Who tucks a flowered shirt in though?
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's my husband tucks everything in. So you're right. A Hawaiian shirt he wouldn't have tucked in. He never would have shown up wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Like either. I think he would have gone like Dockers.
I had those in between. Those were like khaki colored jeans, essentially.
Yeah. Well, you can wear whatever you want to your way.
Oh, sure. And all the groomsmen had varying degrees of. One guy didn't wear a Hawaiian shirt by accident, so who knew?
One of the groomsmen didn't wear a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, he showed up in a plain, like something written on a T-shirt with a jacket.
Because probably no one told him. That's going to be my hunch.
Right. I don't know. We'll debate that.
So I was so afraid to tell you that I wasn't coming because I thought Tina was going to freak out. Yeah. So I didn't tell you. Yeah. And I just, because I know if I text you, sometimes she reads it. And the day of your wedding, I was like, I'm not going to text on the day of his wedding, right? Like that's not the thing you do. So I texted Dan. I'm like, dude, no, I had a fever. I'm like, there's no way I'm making it to this wedding. And I didn't want to give it to anybody anyway.
Right.
I said, I'm not going to make it. And I said, just break it to them slowly. I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had a groomsman for the same thing. Yeah, one of my groomsmen couldn't make it for the same exact thing. 102 point something fever.
That's what I had. Yeah.
He was feeling just death.
Yep. Tina, thanks, people. I hated the process. Nobody told me Mary wasn't coming, LOL, until after. Yes, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we figured you would lose your mind. Congratulations, Mary Guy.
Thank you, sir.
Yay! So yeah, he was a great guest. I have to definitely let him know that everybody really liked him.
Yeah.
And great questions, by the way. Thank you everyone for participating. Really appreciate it. You guys really make it. We've had so much more participation and from different voices too
Yeah.
in the last couple of weeks, which is fantastic. So it's easier to get good guests on when I tell them, no, people participate. It's really great. It's good.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Please like the podcast. Go back and watch old ones. I don't care if you put them on and just let them run. That works too. Feel free. And let's see what else. Okay, so tomorrow I will be on SiriusXM Patriot Channel in for Andrew Wilkow from noon to 3. And then Monday I will be in on Chris Salcedo show between 4:30 and 5. I was technically on the Wendy Bell show this past weekend, but I don't know if you know about this, but war broke out in the Middle East. And so we got preempted up the wazoo.
Yeah.
So needless to say, we were not. We were on, but we weren't on Wendy Bell. So that's my schedule so far this coming week. I, knock on wood, am not like crazy overscheduled this coming week. I say that all the time, but like today I got asked to do at the last minute. Could you fill in? Like in the morning, and then somebody was sick and couldn't fill in, and from the same time I was already filling in on the other show, and somebody else wants me to. So a lot of times that happens, especially with so many people getting sick.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about. A lot of people getting sick. So I can't talk.
Mask up, people. Mask up.
That's right. Mask up. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We are out of here. You guys are the best. You really, truly are. You guys hit it out of the park today. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And just all the participation. You make me happy. You really do. And congratulations again, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes, on your married life. And just remember, happy wife, happy life. All right. All right. We're out. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Let me just do this. There we go. Okay. See ya.